Welcome to aminacademy.com. In astronomy, let us discuss about planetary rings. All four the giant planets have rings, with each ring system consists of billions of small particles or moonlets orbiting close to their planets. Each of these rings displays a complicated structure that is related to interaction between the rings particle and the larger moons. However, the four ring system are very different from each other in mass, structure, and composition. Saturn's ring system is made up of icy particles spread out into several vast flat rings containing a great deal of fine structure. The Uranus and Neptune ring system, on the other hand, are nearly the reverse of Saturn's. They consist of dark particles confined to a few narrow rings with broad empty gaps in between. Jupiter's ring and at least one of the Saturn's are merely transient dust bands constantly renewed by dust grains eroded from small moons. What causes rings? A ring in collection a vast number of particles, each like a tiny moon obeying Kepler's law as it follows its own orbit around the planet. Now, let us discuss further detail about the planet rings. Look at here. The planetary rings are flat, circular structure of dust and other particles orbiting the planet. They are found around the gas giant Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and also around some dwarf planets. Saturn's rings are the most famous and spectacular, but rings exist around all of these planets. Here are more detailed explanation about the rings composition, how it's composed. The rings are made up of countless individual particles ranging in size from tiny dust grains to large boulders or even small moons. Structure. The rings are not solid, but rather a collection of particles orbiting the planets independently within its gravitational field. What about its variety? Each planet's ring system is unique, with variations in size, composition, and structure. For example, Saturn's rings are broad and bright, while Uranus' rings are narrow and dark. How it's formed? There are a few theories about how rings form. One is that they are formed from the debris of moons that were disrupted by the planet's gravity, or that they are composed of particles that never coalesced into moons in the first place. Its significance: planetary rings are valuable for studying the formation of solar system and the processes that occur in circumstellar disk. They also provide insights into the dynamics of orbital system. Now, properties of ring system. Look at here. Here, some tabular form is there. Properties of the ring system. Look at here. First, planet Jupiter outer radius is 128,000 kilometers, and outer radius our planet is 1.8. Here, mass is given 10 power 10 kg. Reflectivity. Look at here. Saturn is all. Look at here, the ring system, that outer radius is given. Look at this table, the comparison also. As well, outer radius, this with the planets ratios given here, and mass also given. Now, what causes a planetary rings? A ring is a collection of vast number of particles, each like a tiny moon obeying Kepler's law as it follows its own orbit around the planet. Thus, the inner particles revolve faster than those farther out, and the rings as a whole does not rotate a solid body. In fact, it is better not to think of a ring rotating at all, but rather to consider the revolution or motion in orbit of its individual moonlets. If the ring particles were widely spaced, they would move independently, like separate moonlets. However, in the main rings of Saturn and Uranus, that the particles are close enough to exert mutual gravitational influence and occasionally even to rub together or bounce off each other in low speed collisions. Speed of these interaction. Because of this interaction, we see phenomena such as waves that move across the rings, just the way water waves move over the surface of the ocean. There are two basic ideas of how such rings come to be. First is the breakup hypothesis, which suggests that the rings are the remains of shattered moons. A passing comet or asteroid might have collided with the moon, breaking it into pieces. Tidal forces then pulled the fragments apart and they dispersed into a disk. The second hypothesis, which takes the reverse perspective, suggests that the rings are made of particles that are unable to come together to form a moon in the first place. Rings of Saturn. Here, now we'll discuss further details. Uh, Collision and breakup moons. Major theories suggest that the rings can form when moons are broken apart by collisions with asteroids or comets. These are the points how the rings form. The resulting debris composed of ice and rocks can then orbit the planet, forming a ring system. Saturn's rings, for instance, are thought to have formed from the debris of two icy moons that collided and shattered a few hundred million years ago, according to new research. Mars is also predicted to give a ring system in the future when its moon Phobos is broken apart by its gravity. The rings, like those of Neptune and Uranus, are also believed to be relatively young and may have resulted from the collisional fragmentation of former inner moons, according to research. Second one, debris from solar system formation. Rings can also form from leftover debris from the early stages of solar systems formation. This material, which may have been too small or unable to coalesce into moons, can be captured by a planet's gravity and form a ring system. Some theories suggest that the rings of Neptune and Uranus might be composed of these primordial materials, the tidal forces and gravitational influences. The gravity of the planet can play a role in the formation of the maintenance of rings. Tidal forces can tear bodies apart or inhibit the formation of large objects, contributing to the dispersed nature of ring system. Shepherd moons, which orbits near the edges of rings or within gaps, can also exert gravitational influence that help shape the ring structure. Some other factors, fainter planetary rings like those of Jupiter can also form from the impact of meteoroids with moons ejecting material into space. Some rings, like Saturn's E-ring, may be formed by the ejection of cryovolcanic materials from moons, according to Wikipedia. The rings are also influenced by the planet's magnetic field, as seen in the case of Jupiter's ring, according to the Webb Space Telescope. Now, so far we discussed a little about the rings of the planets and how it formed. If you have done, please subscribe our YouTube channel.